So welcome again, everyone, to Citation Arcana, a Cite While You Write Wizardry using Zotero. I'm Christina Quinn, and I'm going to introduce Anna Ferry. She's the evidence synthesis librarian. So if you've taken sessions on scoping reviews or large reviews, she would be the person that you would be talking to about that kind of work and research. And Rochelle Raymer, she's the research and scholarship librarian for the sciences. And so if you have questions or anything like that, first of all, you can ask things during at the end, unmute, or you can pose them in the chat if it's something that you need along the way. And let's go ahead and get started. So Rochelle and Anna, thank you so much for being here and doing this talk.
Yes, absolutely. So I will start off by saying that we came by our title because often when we talk about Zotero to people, we keep saying it's magic. And so that's what we want to share with you today is the time-saving magic of Zotero. Okay, so our brief agenda. This is actually flipped from the way we have often talked about Zotero in the past. So we are going to start with the coolest feature, the Cite While You Write feature, and then we are going to work backwards through all the things that Zotero can do and that help enable some of that magic. And yes, for those of you who joined later, please pop questions into the chat. We'll be monitoring that as we go. But if you have like bigger questions or things where you'd want to unmute, please save those for the end where there will be Q&A time. But we already had a fantastic introduction, but here's a little bit more about what we can do for you.
Yeah, so hi, again, my name is Anna Ferry. I'm the evidence synthesis librarian. This means that I support folks that are interested in doing systematic reviews, scoping reviews, mapping reviews, any of those types of reviews that have really specific methods in how you conduct them, as opposed to the ones where it's more adaptable to what you're trying to just accomplish with that review. So this can mean helping you select the review type, develop your protocol or research plan for the review, develop comprehensive searches, or make your plan up for how you are selecting articles, doing data extraction, or any other process like that. Now, I used to be our support person for EndNote. We don't really do much support for EndNote anymore because it's decreasing in terms of how much support the university does for EndNote. But that does mean that you are going through that transition process of pulling out of EndNote into Zotero, and you have questions about that process, I'm happy to help answer those kinds of questions. And I am moving forward doing more support with Zotero. And then I also do some general search support and research and reference question support for any of the biomedical or health sciences or the veterinary medicine program here on campus.
Yep. And my title, a very long title to basically just mean sciences librarian. I do a little bit more of the traditional or narrative style literature reviews, the stuff that doesn't have a method section in it. So yeah, I'm happy and often help people with figuring out a research plan and then thinking, like where are we going to look for sources, that kind of thing, rather than like writing out a giant search and following all of the necessary protocols. A little bit more figure it out as you go is my the type of literature reviews I help with. But also tracking down some like difficult to find resources is something that people often forget that they can ask for help with. If there's something that you've heard about and you really think it would be useful for you, please ask. I'm happy to try to figure out what has gone wrong and where we can get that thing from. In addition to Zotero, I will also help with Mendeley, but just as with EndNote being no longer quite as supported, Mendeley is also not quite as supported as we used to do. But if there are questions that come up, I can help with that. And I'm also someone you can talk to if you are curious about how to interact with AI and how to write prompts about it. So that is just some information to get us started with that. I am actually going to exit out of this PowerPoint, and let me see if I can do that without ruining everything. Okay, I think something happened and I need to reshare my screen. That is the wrong screen. This screen. Okay. All right. You should now be seeing a Microsoft Word document, because like we said, this is where the magic starts. And Anna and I are going to kind of like throw back and forth so that you can see different ways of interacting with Zotero and some different styles. But this is the coolest part. So let's show you the cool part first, so that we know what we're actually working for. Like, why is it even worth bothering with Zotero? This is why. Okay, I am writing my paper. I am writing very insightful, self-referential sentences. As I go, I need to support my arguments with the information that kind of both lends evidence to what I am saying and allows people to follow my train of thought, to track those breadcrumbs, basically, in terms of why did I, like say these things? Why am I thinking these things? Okay, so I've written a sentence. I am going to go up here in Microsoft Word to this tab where I now have a Zotero tab. The key with this Zotero tab is that you have to open Zotero first and then open Microsoft Word. It's actually very easy to fix. If you don't have the Zotero tab, close both of them and then open them in that order. Zotero first and then Microsoft Word. And then you will have the Zotero tab. I'm going to click on Add Citation. And I got this little pop-up. Okay, well, today I think I need to cite in APA format because that's what my professor requested. So I'm going to select APA, click OK, and now I'm going to get a little search box. And again, it keeps popping them up on the wrong screen for no reason that I can tell. There it goes. Okay. All right, so double checking, you can see the pop-up. Excellent. This pop-up allows you to search everything that is in your Zotero. How do you get stuff in there? That's what we'll talk about next. But when you are writing, it's as easy as, okay, well, I just wrote a sentence and it was about, I know I have a lot of stuff about caffeine, my favorite chemical in my Zotero. So I would search for a keyword, or I could search for an author, or, like we're going to talk about tagging in other organization. I could search for a tag. I could search for a year, right? Like any keyword I can search for, and it will give me a list of all the things that match what I have searched for, and I will select, oh, okay, well, this is the one right here that I wanted to cite, and I'll hit enter, and poof, there I go. I have my inline citation. And then, I continue writing, and I'm thinking about the things I need to say, and as I go, I keep adding. There's a couple of cool things, like when you choose something. Let's say I wanted to cite a specific page. If I click on this, right, if I click on the bubble, it gives me this little pop-up and I can say, well, specifically, I wanted to cite page 127. And now that will be reflected in my inline citation. Okay, Anna's going to show us some cool things that happen with a different citation style. You are muted, Anna. Sorry.
Yeah, I should maybe unmute. That would be a critical one. Sorry, my pop-up also went to the wrong screen, so I'm also juggling pop-ups. Can you see my pop-up?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So, so the other thing that we often have to do if you are in one of those fields where they use numbered citation formats, so this could be the American Medical Association's AMA format or Chicago format. These are ones where you have to do numbering for them, and keeping track of your numbers is always a huge challenge doing citations. So I'm going to do AMA, but same issue for Chicago. I'm just more familiar with AMA. So I put my marker where I want it, and then once again, got to go grab my pop-up and put it over here. I find I'm going to go by an author that I know that I have a bunch of their stuff in. So that's the author's name that I know, and this is the thing that I want to cite from them. So I will select that item and hit enter, and you can see I have a citation in here. Now let's say I do another one and I need to add several people in, or several citations in here. Sorry, I've apparently forgotten how to spell their name. So I will do evidence in here and just pick a couple of them. In here, I'm just going to pick several so that you can see how this works. All from the A's, apparently. This is an A heavy citation set, but you can see it did the numbering set for me where it puts them in the proper structure for that style in order to have the numbers in there. Now here's the super cool thing. I can update this and add another one inside of here, but I can also forgot a sentence or reorder my sentences. And the thing that often happens is dealing with your numbering in your bibliography. So I'm going to click this button up here at the top. Again, I'm connected to this Zotero tab. There's an add edit bibliography here. And it takes the one I've already got cited in there and it puts them in the order that I have them cited in already, but I forgot to put one in here. So currently it says Premji and then Emmett in here. I'm going to go add another citation from Williamson in here. Hit enter, and you'll see Williamson is now my number 2 in my list. So it fixed all my numbering for me, and I didn't have to go track it all down or deal with that problem. And I can just continue to focus on my writing instead of focusing on how I'm getting my numbering correct for my citations in here, and just let Zotero build the citations for me.
Yep. And similarly, I'm stealing back control. I'm going to put my bibliography down here under my references. And you'll notice, right, like, so I have an E first, and then I have a B. And because I went with this style, it automatically put them in alphabetical order for me because that is the correct version for this style. So you see, it formats the inline citations for you. It reorganizes things as required for the style. It correctly formats the bibliography for you. So you don't have to remember, like, was I supposed to italicize that or underline it or what? All that nonsense. It just does that magically. I will add then, so if you change your mind, right, I realized that actually I should have been using AMA the way Anna was. I can come back up here to document preferences. And it will pop this screen back up that had the different choices here for me. So I could just, with like a couple clicks, switch over to get the AMA style. Okay. I'll also want to point out with this though, this manage styles down here. And so this is one that I know Anna uses a bunch. I do not, thank God, use quite as much, but this allows you so it'll pop up this, and you can see now it has this get additional styles here. So there are like 10,000 different styles that are available that you can download into your Zotero. You can also create your own, but if there is a style that is not there and you're like, oh shoot, but I need to use such and such style for whatever journal, it's probably in here, right? You can see most of these are journal titles. Anything you want to add about the Cite While You Write part, Anna?
Yeah, I want to show one last thing on here real quick. So I'm going to show my screen real quick one more time. So we're just bopping back and forth on screens. So hopefully you're seeing my document again. Yes. The last thing that I want to note, which makes a good transition over into the next thing we want to share, is that anything that you click on in this document now that is highlighted gray, that's not really technically written into this document. It's actually coding. It's coding that connects your Zotero to this document. So there are two critical things that this relates to. Number one is if you edit anything in here, if I take this K right here and I make it lowercase instead, and this synthesis lowercase, etc., and I do all that, it will revert my changes because it is not written in this document. It is coded into this document. And all of that is based on the style that you have selected. Similarly, if a person's name is wrong, or if the title is written wrong, or if some of this information about where it's published is written wrong, that's not written in this document, it's coming from Zotero. You need to fix that in Zotero in the records that we will show you in just a moment. And we'll show you how to fix records in Zotero when they have errors in them. And then you just refresh this document and those will be correct. The other thing to note is that if you are submitting for publication, they often do not want this coding in here. So you'll note that's why there's this unlinked citations at the top in your Zotero page. It breaks the coding and the connection between your Zotero. This cannot be redone. You cannot reconnect your Zotero. So don't do this until you're ready for submission and you're absolutely certain it's the final what you are going to submit. It does make things slightly more complicated when you need to do revisions to get your everything reconnected. So a good idea is make sure that you have 2 copies. One of what you submitted that is still connected to Zotero, and then make a new copy of that one, and that new copy, break it and submit it. And that way, you still have a version that's connected to your Zotero, makes it easier to update your citations and things based on the peer review feedback that you get. And so that's all I wanted to share with that.
Yeah, I call it the danger button. Only click on it if somebody has specifically told you to click on it. And as Anna said, save a copy with it still connected. I have helped people who had to, and you have to manually go back and re-add all of your citations. It's doable, but it's a pain in the butt. Anna, do you want to go ahead and show them the how to fix a citation in Zotero? I agree that is a good next thing to demonstrate.
Yes, absolutely. So this is what a Zotero library looks like on your desktop. Now, Zotero libraries technically have multiple layers, and we'll talk more about that later. But at the moment, I just want to show you what the desktop application space looks like for Zotero. This is it. So I have a bunch of different folders, and this is how I keep my organizational structure. For me personally, I organize it around different topics that I keep materials on. And each of these is a different citation. Overall, everything in my library is stored in one big setup. This is very similar to one big thing called My Library. This is everything that's in my library. And then these are just additional places where I got them sorted, and I can sort any one individual item into multiple different locations. But the trick here is if I need to edit things, that's what this space over on the right is. So I can click on an item, and now I can edit anything in this space over here that needs updated. So if this name should have an E on the end of it, I can just add it in here and it will save my change. And now if I have this cited in a paper and it needs to be fixed, then that will update in that paper. I'm gonna properly name them real quick here and make that change back. But you can see anything within this space can be edited in here so that you can keep all of these correct for your citations and your references. Do you have a slightly different structure that you work a lot with?
Yes, exactly.
Organizing stuff. So I was going to say you should show this because what she's going to show is really useful and something that I'm like, oh, I should think about doing more some of this.
Well, to be fair, this one has at this point become incredibly messy because I keep going to classes and doing demonstrations and adding completely random things into this one. So, but yes, first though, I do want to not only do you want to do any editing in your Zotero, it fixes, if you edit in your Zotero, it will automatically update in your document, all of your documents, right? So if you it also saves you time because you only have to edit it at one place now, and it propagates that fix to any document where you have cited that. It is always a good idea to double check, just proofread when you, because we'll get to the adding things in, but when you do, just proofread it. So I want to show you this one. Where is it that I grabbed? This one right here. Which is a math paper. And you'll see that in the line, it looks right like it's got this italicized P and the Greek, I forget what letter, that's not a V. But if you come over here, you'll notice that it's actually incorrect. And so if I was having this in a document, it would show this, where it has like these italicized, the coding, like from the HTML, has shown up in the title instead of it just being italicized in the title, right? So just double check, because weird things like that can happen. Names can get misspelled. You know, like there could be a typo in the page numbers very easily, right? Like, so just give it a quick skim through to look for anything that's broken or looks incorrect. And it will save you a lot of pain. But what Anna was getting at is, so there's this folder structure, but you can see like I really haven't, I did a couple because for demonstration and class purposes, I rely more on the tagging. So you can see down here are all the different tags that I have associated with articles that are in this database. To add or change the tags on a paper, so by default, it'll pull up on this page that has like the metadata, but over here on the side, you have all these different little icons that have different pages associated with this article. I'll point out this one is the notes one, so you can add any notes, and these are just like notes to yourself. But this one, article, I have not yet added any tags for. So this is like this math paper that I was looking at. So I see, right, like, oh, not sure why. Okay, here's the tags that I previously added. Do I have, see if I have a different one where I haven't added tags yet. Okay, well, I've only added a couple there, so I might need to add some more tags to this paper. I don't actually know what it's about, so I'm going to make this up off out of thin air, but this could be something like dosage or human subject, because maybe this was a double-blind study. I don't know, probably not. But what basically, what I'm trying to show is that I can put any tags I want, including misspelled ones. Let me fix that. I could add things like methodology to remind myself that that's the part that I was interested in. Or I could add something like quote this, right? It doesn't have to just be topic related, is my point. And then remember when we had that little pop-up in the Microsoft Word document? Anything I have put here is something that I could search for in that. So like if I had tagged the papers that I knew I wanted to quote or that I knew I wanted to refer to, because I could say like this was for my term paper, right? I could search then, I mean, I probably would have wanted to put like the actual class that term paper was, right? Then I could search for that class, and I could all of the ones that I had tagged for that class would pop up for me to be able to have right there on a list for me. You can use both at the same time. Tags and folders are not exclusive. So I often see people go one of two ways. Either they like organize their folders by subject and then they have more like functional tags, or people organize their folders by like all of the classes, like here's my class and then here's my subfolder for each project in that class, or here's the paper I'm writing and here's a section for introduction and methodology and so forth, and then subject-based tags. Or a mix. Like the only wrong way to do it is to not do it. Other cool things that happen within this piece, because this is like the workhorse piece of Zotero, right? We looked at the piece that attaches to Microsoft Word. By the way, it also will work with Google Docs. This is the workhorse piece. So there's some other cool functionality that happens in here. One of them is that you will see in this, it can be set up in a different way. So when Anna shows hers again in a bit, look at how we have different columns, because not being an evidence synthesis person, I do not care which archive it came from, but Anna sure does. So I don't bother with that column. I have a little column over here that tells me like what is attached to each of these files. So like this little icon here means I have a PDF that's attached to this. And I can actually open that and read it inside my Zotero. You could, I've obviously demonstrated on this one before because you can annotate. You can add, I like adding sticky notes. You can add, and you can choose what color sticky note you want to add, and then you can like add your comments, highlight, write on it, whatever you want to do. And then that shows up like even in the image that Zotero gives you, right? So you can have all of your annotations, all of your notes right there, neatly stored in one place. It is not mandatory to do that. You can use Zotero and also use paper copies where you take notes by hand. Again, no wrong way to do this except to not. But Anna, so I wanted to show off your columns, and I also wanted to, I thought maybe you would want to show about the deduplication, because this is a big thing. Everybody should do this. Mine is in desperate need of some deduplication right now, but for evidence synthesis, it's critical.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I was gonna say, can you show real quick actually how to search for a tag like quote this, like where the search bar is to show?
Yes,
like,
excellent points. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's right up here at the top, and you can see like by default, it searches all fields and tags. If I knew I specifically had certain things that I wanted to search, I can change it. But I usually just like personally just leave it there. So like if I then wanted to search here for quote this, it's the same as that pop-up that shows up in Microsoft Word. So everything I have tagged with that, or again, like methodology. Right, because these are papers then that I know that I want to look at when I'm trying to figure out what methods I'm going to use, or potentially need to cite in my paper when I describe what methods I used. Or again, by name. So Evans is one that I can see on the screen, and now I could see like, oh, I only have one from them. But yes, so that is where that searches. Thanks for the reminder.
Awesome. Okay. So, okay, there we go. So what I wanted to show here is you can control these up here by just right-clicking. In fact, a lot of the menus in Zotero, just right-click, you'll get some menus in here. So if I just right-click on top of my columns, I can control what's in here and what columns are shown. And in fact, there's even more columns. There's a ton of columns. I change these depending on what project I'm working on and what I need to know. So these go on and off, up and down all the time, depending on my projects, but you can always pick the ones that work the best and are most meaningful for you so that you can see the critical information for what you need to do. Additionally, then we were going to talk about duplicate removals, although I just realized I'm not sure I cleaned my, oh, okay, I've got some duplicates. Good. I've been busy recently. So I was going to say, I knew I did some duplicate removal not too long ago, but I've been at it. So these are the folders that I have created. These are the folders that actually organize my materials per what I have decided I want them organized by. And I even have folders inside folders inside folders. I have a lot of layers to my folders. But at the bottom, there are some that are just preset. These are items that are set up to go into the trash, but they don't go straight into delete. They kind of hover in a safe space for a little while before they fully delete. You can tag things as your publications and indicate that, but you also have this one that's called duplicate items. The duplicate items is anything that it finds that you have added to your collection twice, and you don't need to have multiple versions of this in here. So if you click on one of the duplicates, you can see it selects all the versions that are duplicated. Doesn't look like I have any 3s in here, which is good. So I haven't downloaded anything 3 times, just twice in a number of instances. And I can see when I downloaded them, how far apart it was, and I can check through the items in here. And actually, you can also change this to bigger or smaller. I don't tend to do the individual differences one so much. So I kind of forget where that's located, Rochelle.
Let me actually show mine because
okay.
I have some of these. You
Okay.
keep speaking, but I will share my screen with
Okay.
some that have like the individual items.
Fantastic.
Although I guess I need to find.
Yeah, to see if we can find one that.
There's one.
There we go. There we go. Okay. So sometimes if there are differences, but like if you downloaded something from two different locations, there can actually be differences in what the record looks like. So it will show you where the actual literal differences in that record are so that you can manage it. If there are things that are like more correct in one record and more correct in the other, you can select which version you want on the literal line by line level in here to get your corrections accurate. Or you can just select one of them and say, take everything from this version, and I want everything from this version. It depends on whether or not one has a critical error or has highly more useful information in it. You just pick the one you want merged or the specific piece of information you want merged in there. And then you can see at the top, there's a merge two items button. So we merged one piece of information individually, and then the rest of it, we just took the whole selected item and merged it to be that version is the core version that's on there. So you have control over how these merge together and what information gets saved as you're doing it.
Yep.
And it's easy to get a lot of these. So it's good to once in a while go into your duplicates and clean things up.
And that actually, I think, brings up a really good point about, okay, so you hopefully got why the cite while you write part is cool, because like that is super cool. But this part is cool because it is amazing how many times you will be working for a class or on one project and you will read a paper and use it for that project. And then you will like move on to something else. And then 3 years later, you will have a new project or a different class or whatever. And that paper you read years ago is going to end up being relevant to this new project that you're working on. If you have spent time building your personal library, and that's what Zotero really is like your personal database that you have built for yourself. It'll be there waiting for you to go back to. But that's also why it's easy to end up with duplicates, because you downloaded it once because it was useful, and then 6 months later you downloaded it again because you saw, oh, that looks useful, and then a year after that you downloaded a third time because, hey, that article looks useful. And it's easy to forget what you have read. I was very arrogant when I started grad school, and I was convinced, because this had been my past experience, that I would read papers and then remember what I read and then just go straight into writing. When I was now working on projects that spanned years, that was no longer happening in my brain. I was now starting to forget what I had read, and more importantly, forgetting where that thing I had read had come from. So Zotero is really, like this desktop piece is really, I think, in some ways as cool as the cite while you write, because it is your like, it's where you can save all of your work, so you don't have to reduplicate it.
It's making, sorry, it's making your own personal collection, and it's really critical as you are working through your scholarship. Do you want me to show groups? Because I actually have active groups. And
all of my groups are named Test,
and yours are,
Test 2, Test 3. Super exciting.
So let's look at some active groups and what they look like. Groups are what allows you to share Zotero library, your Zotero library with somebody else and work on a project collaboratively. So I have a bunch of group libraries down here, and you can see I've got a bunch of items in here. Some of them even have their own folders inside of them, and some of them are just a big collection altogether, an unorganized collection. But I have group libraries that are in here. I have the way you create this is your Zotero, again, as we mentioned, comes in several parts. 2 of the parts are your desktop app that I'm using right now and your online version. So this is my online browser accessed into my Zotero library. So I have logged into my Zotero library. You'll see it looks really similar to your desktop app, super similar. But what I have that's different at the top is this bar where it says Zotero Web Library and Groups. This is where I can manage, set up new groups, and I can set up who has access to them, whether they're private or public, and I can work on different projects and share whatever is in that library. The other thing is you have limited amounts of storage with Zotero for free. It's considerable, but it can get used up if you have lots and lots and lots of PDFs in your library. So I'm going to go back to my, hold on, the directions, the display thing is in the way of my bottom layer here. Okay, there we go. So I have set up in my library under my settings, there we go, under edit and settings, you can see you have sync settings, and this is what gets synced between your physical library on your desktop and your library that's in the cloud. And you don't have to sync everything. It doesn't all have to be completely synced. What I have chosen to do to save myself some storage space is that only all of my downloaded PDFs only get synced online if they are in group libraries. And otherwise, all my PDFs lives on my personal computer, so it doesn't use up my online space. And then I just, if I need something to be saved in the online space to make sure it's going to be there for me, I just add it to a group, make it private, and make it for myself. So this is something you can control that helps you manage your space in your library. So let me just show you here real quick to create a new group. It's just the groups tab, go to create new group there. Yeah, give it a name like test, as you have done so many times, Rochelle. And then you just decide whether you want it to be public. That means anyone can see. This is Zotero has a big open space for all sorts of groups that are out there. You can see other people's groups if they've made it public, and you can become a member. It can be public so they can see it, but they can't join as a member. They have to get an invite or apply to be a member, or you can make it completely private, and that means you have to directly invite that person, and they have to have their own Zotero, like you need to know what email is associated with their Zotero login so that they can sync their materials to yours, and then you just create a group, and that's all it took for me to have this. Now it's, I guess it's got some settings in here just to control who can do what in this group. But once you save the settings, you're good to go. Your group exists in there. And actually, let me see if it's that fast. Yep, it's so fast that it's already got my test group in my desktop app version. That was all it took to create my shared space, so I can now work collaboratively on the same paper with somebody else. And we can use the same thing when I go to cite while I write. I'm just going to cite things from this test group in my paper, and that will make all of our citations from the same place in here, or from whatever project I'm working on, like my systematic review assignment projects. That will all cite from that one folder, and that means we can work on the same document and all use Zotero and all be using the same set of citations in the same place.
And this is why when people ask, like, okay, well, which citation management software should I use? My best advice to you is use the same one that any potential co-authors are using. So like your advisor, your lab mates, if you're all using the same software, you can create these groups and you can co-write papers while using those cool Cite While You Write tools. Also, with your test, would you mind dragging a paper in there just to show? Totally. It's literally drag and drop.
That's all it took. And now if I go look at my test one, I have that paper in there, and I did this in the online one. I should be able to now go to my desktop one and see the paper. They're all synced together. So desktop and online speak to each other very quickly, and that means I can use either space very quickly.
Okay, so that next big question. All right, so we have this cool and pretty powerful desktop version and the related web version. But how did all of those papers magically appear in our Zotero libraries in the first place? So that is the last major topic that we want to show you. and we'll each, like, I think we also have a little different style on how we like to work with this. But this is all about the browser extension, and Zotero has browser extension available for pretty much all of the like big browsers like Firefox, Chrome, Edge, Safari. So Anna, go ahead and show us how you like to grab these papers.
Yeah, totally. So first of all, make sure that you have grabbed from Zotero.org. They have the ability to download your actual component, and we'll give you the more materials for this in the end, but we want to make sure that you understand there are these separate components. They are separate things to download. You do have to download something that goes on your desktop for your computer. That is the app you're using on your computer, and that speaks to the online Zotero library. But there's also a connector, and you can get it for Firefox, you can get it for Chrome, you can get it for whatever browser, Safari, whatever browser you prefer. So once you have that in here, you should have a little in your extensions, you should be able to see it up here. And actually, this is the one right here, is save to Zotero. This is a web page. I could save this web page, literally the Zotero download page, to my Zotero folder if I wanted to, because I can very easily save citations for web pages with Zotero. It's very responsive to that. And I have tons of web pages in my personal Zotero because of that. But the other thing I can do is I can do this from an actual search in a database. So if you use PubMed, if you use PsycInfo, ERIC, any of the many databases that are out there, or if you're searching through the library's general search, you can do this there as well. Usually I am picking individual items, or I am grabbing a large set at one time. So I am frequently doing this send to button from PubMed. In other databases, this is often called export or download or other terms. It's not consistent in the terminology, so you may need to ask us sometimes if you can't find it, or do a Google search to see if somebody can explain to you in this database where is my ability to download. But what I'm looking for is a reference to a citation manager, because that's what Zotero is. And this downloads a file, and I have the ability to pick to download all results, although I really don't want 10,000 results, so that I'm not going to pick that. A selection of things, if I've highlighted certain things, or all results on this page, it will create a file for me, and the files are usually RIS files. So if you see RIS as the file type, that's the one you want. Sometimes they'll explicitly say Zotero in there, and sometimes they won't. But if you see RIS, it'll do it. And that file, if you've done that file type as an import into Zotero before, it'll usually auto. But otherwise, it's in my downloads. And if I just click on it, it'll upload that entire set of results in here. I'm kind of surprised it didn't do this right now. So clearly I've redone some settings somewhere at the moment, because it should have just auto done it, but I'm just going to do it. I found the file, and I'm going to click on it. Oh, that's why I've been working in EndNote, because I've been solving a problem for someone in EndNote. It wants to go do it to EndNote, and it's causing all sorts of issues right now. Sorry, that's my bad. I forgot I was solving something for someone in EndNote.
Key takeaway, don't be like us using multiple citation managers.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's for demonstration purpose.
It's so confusing. But you can change. Let's see if I can get it to go back over to Zotero real quick. Oh, you in my list? No, of course not. I would have to go find it. I don't want to waste our time in this. But anyways,
yes.
Usually, if you're not doing multiple things, you can open that, and it'll open it and save it as a new folder directly in here in my Zotero. So that's why I get a large collection at one time, and I can grab a huge search all at once.
Whereas I tend to not have to grab 10,000 papers at once. Silly evidence synthesis people. So instead, I like to take advantage of the browser extensions ability to grab a few at a time. So same sort of page where I've got like these multiple results on a search screen. And you'll see how it's turned into a little file folder. It's saying, hey, I see multiple sources on this page. When I click on it, it pulls up this little pop-up where it's like, here's all the titles of the papers it's saying. And since I don't like usually download an entire set, I can just be picky. I can go like, well, that one looks interesting, and I think I need this one. And I can like pick individual ones and then send that over, and then it will send those specific papers. So depending on your style, are you doing like a massive review project where you need to be comprehensive and download everything? Or are you working on a more traditional literature review style where you're just picking the ones that are most relevant to what you do? Both styles work. I will also show my favorite way to do this is, so this is one way to save time is to grab a bunch at one time, but I actually like better to individually click into each paper that I want to look at and get to a screen that looks like this. And by a screen, this is like the page where I would read the full text, and most importantly, it has a PDF download button somewhere on the page. As long as that some form of download PDF is on the page you're looking at. And again, you'll notice that the extension icon changed. Right now it's saying like, hey, I see a research paper on there. But because there's a download button on that page, now it's also downloading that PDF for me automatically. And that's what I like. Because it's actually quite easy in Zotero to again, it's drag and drop. Like you can drag it off of your desktop and drop it on to like the line item. That's all you have to do to attach a PDF. So it's easy to go back in. If you were like, I'm going to download the 5 that I see from the search and then I'll add the PDFs in later, it's easy to do. So I don't know that one is better than the other. Lots of different ways to get it in. You can even manually put it in. I don't think I actually know anyone who does the manual style, but it exists. So like this little plus here is where you could like say, well, I have a journal article, and then you could like actually type in or copy paste all the different things. Add papers that aren't available to download. Oh yeah, yes. The PDF, like, I like to do it on the page where the PDF is available, but not necessary. That like the only difference is that it would not have grabbed that PDF. So like if in Zotero, I've lost it initially highlighted, but because I clicked on some other things, but let's pretend it was this one. It would have grabbed everything except for that PDF if it wasn't available to download. So it doesn't have to be there, but if it is there, it automatically downloads the PDF. That's the only difference. But it would still grab all of this information, everything you need for citing and for your bibliography. That's the only difference. The last thing I want to talk about, so Anna already mentioned that she has a lot of websites in her Zotero. I have a few in my Zotero because, well, you know, like we mostly use academic papers when we are doing academic writing, there are many times when it is useful to use information off of a website. Here's one of the problems that I personally have run into is that I will find something really useful on a website and I'll like make a note to myself that I want to use that in whatever I'm working on, and then I will go back and it will have disappeared because that is my luck. Is that if I think it's useful, it'll be gone in no time. When you are taking a website into Zotero, you will notice, first of all, again, icon changed, that it takes what it calls a snapshot. This is literally just an image. It's not live. There's no links off of it or anything. But in your Zotero, it will have this actual image of the website. So if said information disappeared on you, you will still have an image of it. It's also, so you may be aware that when you cite a website, one of the things you need to include is the date. Now have documentation of what it looked like on the date that you will be including in your citation. Okay, any last things to add, Anna, before we open it up for Q&A?
Nothing critical. I have other things I could say, but I think it's more important we see what kind of questions folks have.
There are always more things to say.
Yes.
So Christina, if we could go ahead and stop the recording and let this, we did have one question about EndNote that Anna can speak to briefly, but then any other questions that have come up or things that you want to like ask, why is it doing this weird thing?
All right, great. Thank you both. I'm going to stop the recording now.